Hi, thanks for stopping by. I was just starting to edit up this video and I want to put in a footnote before we really get started into it. Because I've made about 150 videos so far and there's only really one video that's attracted critical comments. Sort of comments like, "You've no idea what you're doing, mate." And those were the ones that came in when I skimmed a disc rotor. Now, I ought to say a few things then and ask you to keep your fingers off the keyboard until you've seen this through. So let me explain. First of all, we're not a commercial outfit. We're doing this for ourselves, for my son's car, and we're only accountable to ourselves. The second thing is, we do have to experiment a little bit to get this job to work on the lathe, but by the end, everything's fine. And the disc is within spec for thickness, for wobble, and for variation in thickness. The discs are on the car and they're absolutely fine. Now, why do we go to this trouble to skim these discs? Actually, not this one. These discs are junk. These are the back discs. The front discs are the ones I'm actually going to skim. We do it because the replacement discs are anything up to £250 for the pair. That's about $300 US. So at that price, it's worth the effort. It's just our own time. You know, we don't pay ourselves for our hobby time. And we were really pleased with it in the end. Oh, and perhaps just finally to say, I know using a brake lathe is the right way to do it, but we don't have a brake lathe. But we did do it on the Harrison 140 and it works. So we'll get on to the video now. Just wanted to say that. Please be patient. See it to the end. Thank you. Welcome to Haxby Shed. I need to skim the front disc rotors on my son's car. Those discs are still on the car, but this disc is a rear rotor which he's already changed. Now this rear disc is too far gone to skim on the lathe, so it gives me the opportunity, you know, before I get the front discs, to do a test setup and do a bit of test machining to make sure that, you know, I've got it set up all right. The centre hole in this disc is the same as the centre hole in the on the front discs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this faceplate, which I've never used before. I bought this from America. It was about $110 US, but by the time that eBay had put the taxes on it and the transport and everything, it was about £160, which is probably one of the most expensive things I've bought for the lathe. But I knew that one day I was going to have to clamp something in the centre of a faceplate. And this faceplate has a T-slot that runs right across the centre. And with a long T-slot nut, which I made, I can bolt there in the centre. So what I'm going to do with this disc is I'm going to make at least one locating collar here that locates in there to hold this disc in the centre. And I will machine, clamping it on this side, to start with, I will machine this side as a test, because these are junk, they'll go in the bin. When I'm doing the front discs, this will be my first cut, but then I will turn it round and locate on this face and machine this side here. This disc, if I haven't said it, this disc is already, this rear disc is too big to go in my lathe without taking the block out. I've had about 9 takes of this clip. I hope this one's okay. Oh, only to say, to add, this was a piece of test block that I used with my trepanning tool. So actually that bit there is just about the right size to make this locating ring to go in there and to go in there. Okay, let's get started. This locating ring only needs to be about 7 deep. That'll be 5 at 68 and 2 millimeters at 63.5. Everything's cut to size, so I'll trim this off. Okay. Should do. We've got some fast jets running around outside, so you might hear those. Stay. Ah. This is where I need 4 pairs of hands. Don't fall off, that's it. Well, that clears the bed quite easily there. I just thought before I go any further and machine this face, I just see what the runout is. Now I haven't cleaned anything, I just slapped it together, you know, without any thought at all. And it's not impossible anyway that this disc might be slightly warped, who knows. Well, it's showing something a little under 0.1 of a mil, in other words less than 4 thou, which is quite a bit of runout, I think. So when I do the proper job on the front discs, I'm going to have to take some care to try and get it right. But we are going to clock the front discs before we take them off the car. Well, I think that's okay as a proof of concept. This is quite a good finish on here, but it's shown the importance of clocking the discs on the car before we take them off. If there's no wobble on the car, when we set them up here, we don't expect to see any wobble on the face before it's machined. If there is wobble on the car, we'll know what it is, and it should be the same on here. If we hadn't clocked them on the car, we could be messing around for ages on here, trying to get them without wobble when in fact they're warped anyway. You get the idea. So I'll get my son to get the discs off the car and we can have a go at it. And then obviously we'll need to make another locating center ring spacer thingy when we know what that offset is. Looks good, doesn't it? Well, we're a day further on. Last night I was thinking about this and I thought I needed to do a couple of checks. Because do you remember when I put the disc on here and I clocked it before I machined it, it was running out as a wobble by about 4 thou, 0.1 of a mil. And I thought, well, that's probably the disc, or I'd just not cleaned any surfaces, you know, that's what it was. But I thought to myself, well, I'd better just check this faceplate. And what I found is, you can't clock round, obviously, because the DTI falls down these slots. But with care, I've worked out that there is about a 4 thou wobble on the front of this plate. And also, it's dished as well. So it's higher at the sides than it is in the middle. And this doesn't mean anything, but I just have clocked the outside. And it does run out by about 4 thou. Now, that edge isn't going to affect anything, but it's just, you know, another data point, really. Right? So, 0.1 of a mil. Now, I've taken this off a couple of times. I've cleaned the spindle nose and the, you know, the inside fixture, and it looks as clean as anything. This plate looks like it's never actually been used. So, I'm happy that it's fixed on right. What I'm going to do is take this off, put this one on, which is a standard Harrison plate, and just for comparison, I'll just see if there's much run out on this. I'm not going to use this. What I am probably going to be doing is machining the front of this. Well, with the other plate on, just on the edge, my DTI was here anyway, so I may as well do it. 3/100ths of a millimetre, so about 1.2 thou. So that's a lot better. Let's try the front. Good old Harrison. Maximum deviation on that is less than 2/100ths of a millimetre. So let's say 0.6 of a thou. And some of that will be dirt on the front. So that proves this plate and this spindle nose, I think. I'm just setting up to machine. I'll try and show you this. I normally end up with this down one of these slots, but anyway, set to 0 just about. Look at that. Back to there. Goodness me. Whoop. There you go. I'm going to use a round-nosed brazed carbide turning tool, which was another one of my £1 wins from the Autojumble. Well, it's cutting all the way around the outside with a cut of 0.2 millimeters, but I'm not sure whether it's going to cut here because I know it's dished, so let's check that. Yeah, it's cutting there. Oh, I can't get that far. I'll just trust that it's going to cut, I think. Let's have a look. One more go. And it's just touching there. I might have to do a second cut. I just hope to do it in one, that's all. So I'll let that run across now at that setting. On this clip I forgot to turn the microphone on, but what I'm saying is there's just a patch there where the tool scraped over the surface really without cutting, so I'll need to check that that's okay. More silent movie, but you can see what I'm doing. The patch on the faceplate where the tool just scraped over the surface and didn't really cut is just there. About 1/100th of a millimetre. Now let's try the other side. Now this side was fully machined. That'll do. I am going to machine this edge and the back, if I can get to the back. Now I know they don't play any part, but I'd still like to clean them up, being as I'm in the mood and it's set up for it. About a month ago I was at the Autojumble and a guy was trying to sell me a load of boring bars. Well, I've got quite a few, so I didn't need any. I said no at first, but then I spotted this one, which is about the only right-handed boring bar I've seen. So it was £8 for the bar, and then I had to buy a tip, or a set of tips, which were I think a tenner. And it's the only way I can get into the back of this plate. It's taken me a lot of time to get this to set up. Well, that was just vanity, but I got it done and I'm really pleased. When I got that boring bar, my wife said to me, well, why do you need a right-handed boring bar? Because she knows a bit about these things actually. And I said, well, I could use it for this, or if I was in this situation. And she said, well, wouldn't you use a left-handed boring bar, or wouldn't you use the lathe in reverse? And I'm like, yeah, but there will be a time. And I didn't know it was going to come so soon. Nice. My son has managed to get the dimensions for the front disc, so I can make this centering block now out of wood. This will get me pretty much in the centre, and then I can just tap the discs to get them completely centralised. But in this plane, if you understand my point, it doesn't really matter, because we're going to machine the discs over the whole of the active surface. Now it's time to take the discs off the car, and we're checking the runout by clamping the discs up tight using 3 wheel bolts and some spacers. There is a little bit of runout. It's a bit surprising. It's good to know, because otherwise I'd be chasing this on the lathe. Let me show you. Here's the 0. That's halfway around, and that's reading 4/100ths of a millimetre, so about 1.6 thou. Then it comes back to 0. So if I set it up on the lathe, you know, I'd expect to see that or better. This, by the way, is a VW Phaeton. That should be 68 now. That's what I call a big disc, 360 millimeters. And as we clock it, well, I'll show you. So if I set up as right, what we'll get is the same as we found on the car. So actually we tried it a couple of times on the car, and it ranged between 4 1/100ths of a mil and 6 1/100ths of a mil, depending on how tightly we clamped the disc up on the hub. So here we go. 6 1/100ths of a mil there. Yep, that's running at 6 1/100ths of a mil. So we know that it's set up the same on the lathe as it was in the car. If I hadn't clocked that on the car, I'd be running around forever here trying to find out where the error was. Well, we actually know it's in the disc. Just doing a finish cut of 0.05 millimeters. Well, we've finished this side, we've clocked it, and it's spot on. We've got the wooden block in the middle now. A little bit of trimming was necessary, but that's ready to go on the lathe. Push that through, that's it. I haven't got a clue where the middle is. Ah, nearly there, that's it. Oh, there we go. That's the lathe headstock oiler kicking off. It wasn't our intention to both wear blue t-shirts today, just worked out that way. Well, we've got the disc mounted and we should see the same as we saw on the car. Which we do. So that gives us some confidence. So we'll machine this side now. Right, that's the second side done. Zero. And then also we took a mic and we measured the thickness here at several places around the disc, and it was within 1/100th of a millimeter, probably better actually. So that's good enough. Second disc. Second disc, second side. Right, this side's going back together now. It's getting late and I'm going to leave him putting the wheel on the other side. I'm going in for something to eat. Well, the discs have been on the car now 2 or 3 weeks. We put new pads on, they're absolutely fine. I hope that was useful to somebody. If you're still here, please subscribe. Haxby's Shed has a visitor.
Is that a lorry tyre?
A lorry tyre? No, it's actually a disc rotor. From my car. From the back.
What's that then?
That then? Which part? part?
That red thing.
Oh, the red thing is an oil can.
Huh?
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah, it is.
Show me this.
Right, yeah, that's a good idea.
I'll go down here first.
I have a couple of daughters who work in rail,
So you don't...
and we happen to have this piece of rail line which we use as an anvil. But she's never been up close to one of these, so we're just going to show her.
Okay.
What's that, pardon?
I'm down here so you don't fall down, okay?
Okay, you're going to catch me if I fall then. Well done.